Hey everyone, happy Homebrew Wednesday. Drinking up on the coconut IPA here. Cheers. Tasting pretty good. It's pretty much like I remember it. So I have done a couple brews this week, and I'll save that footage for the end of the video. But what I want to talk about right now is the coconut IPA and the coconut porter, which I presented in a local competition here in Oslo last Friday night. The competition is known as IKT-NM, and it's basically only open to people in the IT industry. Went ahead and participated with that, entered in both of the beers, and didn't actually get as good feedback as I had hoped from the official judges. Didn't place within the top 6. And didn't place within the top 6 of the public favorites either. But I'm very happy that I entered, and I'm so happy that I went, because it was such a great experience to be able to meet with people of like-minded folks, brewers, and just mingle and get to know them, see what their setups were for that type of scenario and situation, talk to them about their beers, and yeah, I had a really good time. I was driving that night, so I didn't get a chance to actually sample their beers, but just getting to meet them and talk to them, you know, we all like to talk about brewing, so that was really cool. I did learn some things though. I got 2 sheets for each beer from official BJCP certified judges here, and I just want to go over some of the comments that they had for the beers. The first one I'll cover is the, well, we'll do the coconut IPA first. Alright, so I want to set the stage a little bit, because the scoring was, well, pretty much, you know, it wasn't random, it was pretty well divided. It was done in an orderly fashion. But I got there, I set up the kegs, hooked up the gas. Next thing I knew, I had this guy shoving a couple cups in front of me saying, fill these up with your beer and for judging. And I was like, I didn't even get a chance to really pour. I did pour 1 glass out, but didn't really get a chance to test it. I mean, we'd just been shaking around in the car and everything like that, getting it there, put it down, pour, and that was it. So the first pour that I got off, there was like no head. It looked like it was flat, and I was like embarrassed. I was so embarrassed to give it away, but you know, it was there. We were there to be judged, so I did. By the end of the night, the beers were pouring fantastic. Heads were coming out perfect. They were lasting a long time. You know, things cleared up. The IPA was becoming more and more clear. Right off the bat, of course, it was cloudy. So, yeah, there was that. All right, so I'm making excuses. I'm just laying out the framework for, you know, what it was actually like. So the first judging for the coconut IPA was pretty much, you know, when it comes to head, well, let's go back to the aroma. Interesting comments on the coconut IPA. The aroma was like gingerbread. That one sort of flew me away. So it was like gingerbread and hops is what he says. Also lots of coconut. In terms of the body or the color, the appearance, it was like a dark sort of spicy beer. Well, in terms of taste, it was bitter and more spicy. And he commented that it needs more balance. So, okay. For CO2, it was undercarbonated. That was pretty much the comments. Like I said, as the night went on, you know, probably 30 minutes into the event, which was like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour event, where you just, you know, pouring beer for, there was about 200 participants, I think, that were there total. So they were pouring really, really nice just after a little while. Drinkability. It said the first comment was that it's a unlikely combination. Spicy for, yeah, it was too spicy for a beer type. Yeah, but too bitter. Basically too bitter. So out of 50, it actually, they gave me a 22. 22 out of 50. All right. And yeah, so let's go on to the second comment. The second judge, he said the aroma was like Christmas pudding, raisins, and spices. When it comes to the color and things like that, again, it was very little head, very little carbonation. For the taste, talking about like Christmas cakes. Bitter, too bitter though. Had like ginger. You got that, and spicy bitterness. But they really didn't know what the types were, so I think the competition was basically, you know, it was best of show. So they weren't actually grading types. They didn't know that this was, you know, like a fruit IPA. They didn't know that it was a fruit porter or anything like that. So they had no sort of barons to go from. They were just judging it for what they tasted, and that was it. So they did a really good job in terms of, you know, calling it for what it was. For body, moderately light. Yeah, not too much more on that. Bad balance, interesting, but wasn't so great. Less is more, basically, with the coconut and the hop balance. It's not like they were being judged by people, you know, living on the edge and wanting, like, you know, looking for some sort of edge case beer that you might find on the west coast of the U.S. But it was kind of nice. I respect their comments. They were great. And again, on the beer, the coconut IPA, it was fresh. It was so fresh. I took the coconut out of the keg that morning. It was only in the keg for like 5 days, so I totally was too short on that. You know, it should have been in the keg for at least a week, probably better 2, to let all of the flavors mellow and stuff like that. So I was going for freshness. I gave them freshness, and it killed me. So I definitely learned a lot from that, and will not do that next time. And when it comes to the coconut porter, that was a completely different story in terms of preparedness, because I had that all done 2 weeks in advance, and it was ready to go. So let's get to the comments on the coconut porter. Okay, so the aroma, chocolate, coconut, Bounty, which over here is a chocolate bar, very similar to like Mounds in the US. So it's all chocolate and coconut. And then caramel. When it came to the look of it, the head was like, had no head retention whatsoever. But again, I explained that. It got a lot better as the night went on. Really good, actually. So when it comes to the taste, yep, more of the they sort of said it tasted like coco's milk, and people were surprised that I really used real coconut. So coco's milk, chocolate, caramel, fudge, with a hint of coffee. Yep, mouthfeel, it was, they thought it was a little bit thin for a porter, a little bit warming in the throat, pretty good balance, but low CO2. When it came to drinkability, things like that, it was really great for if you were going for like a bounty drink, is what they were saying. So if I was going for Mounds, which is exactly what I was, it was perfect. So that was great. For the second one, I got the same scores on that one. I'll get to that in a second. For the second one, for the coconut porter, it was chocolate. Again, coco's milk. Let's see what else we got here. Little head retention. Again, more like the chocolate bar Bounty. Long lasting taste. Just a hint of alcohol. And but they thought that was slightly unbalanced. The other guy thought it was slightly unbalanced. Which, okay. If you're going for balance between bitterness and hoppiness, okay. When you throw in vanilla and chocolate and coconut, you know, that's a whole nother ball game. But I think that the beer is actually well balanced. Pretty much of the same, really. The score for this one was a 28 out of 50. So a little bit better than the coconut IPA, but still you know, middle of the road. Nothing flashy, nothing too great. But again, that was the comments, and you know, again, I respect what they said. I respected the event very much. I learned a lot, just that experience, just doing it. I mean, it's like going in the SJ Pour competition. As you're making your beers, you can come up with all sorts of mistakes that you make along the way. And preparing for a competition like this, same thing. You can see after the fact, in retrospect, the mistakes that you made, and it was such a great learning experience. And I'm really looking forward to participating in it again next year. So that'll be great. So preparing for that. So in terms of comments from the public, though, that was extremely positive, because we were selling the coconut porter as something that was like, you know, like Mounds or the Bounty chocolate bar, and the women were loving it. It was like chocolate and coconut, and a lot of the guys were too. And then when it came to the IPA, we were selling it, of course, as the Pina Colada Ipa, and it was just clicking for people, and they were like, "Oh my God, that's so cool, Bounty and Pina Colada," and you know, we had people there that were like, "Oh, you're gonna win. This is like #1. This is the best." And then, in the end, we didn't even make it in the top 6. We don't know, you know, where we fall in comparison to the rest of the place. There was, I think, 48 other brewers, and you know, 100 close to 100 beers. So, yeah, we're in there somewhere. Hopefully, not last place. But had a great time. Had a fantastic time. Yeah. So that's about it. I mean, I did 2 brews this week. I did a Arrogant Bastard Ale clone, and I also finally did the Otter Centennial SMaSH again. Again, that was like, I fell in love with Centennial on that beer, and just had to make it again. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I think, what did we do? We did the SMaSH off in February or March, so it's been a long time coming. So finally got able to do that one, and I got a lot of footage from that Brewday. So let me go ahead and show that to you now, and then we'll come back. Okay, so today's goal is a 6% American IPA. It's going to be a SMaSH beer, almost a recreation of the SMaSH beer I did for the Spring Smash Off. It's going to be 100% glorious Maris Otter and Centennial. Got the strike water currently heating up. It's at 55 degrees. Bringing it up to 72 to strike in the mash tun. So let's go ahead and get the grains crushed up and get started. Alright, today we're going to underlet, so we're putting the grain in first. A lot of grain it is. Whoa. Holy smokes. Look at that. Alright, so now filling up the mash tun with 7.3 gallons of strike water. Coming out of the HLT to the bottom of the pump, up into here, and underletting on top of the grains. Now I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. Seeing the water starting to come up over here. pretty cloudy. It's pretty dusty crush. So yeah, it's coming up there. Currently at 5.5 gallons. Let's see those numbers. There we go. Alright, just about there. So there we go, there's the mash. And just give this a good stir around. Whenever I underlet like this, I never get any dough balls. I don't expect to see any at all. That's just really thoroughly mixed. Just basically getting out any of the air pockets that might be in there. I seriously doubt there are any, but just in case, it's always nice. And I'll stir probably throughout the duration of the mash. I'll stir probably a good 3 or 4 times, you know, about 15-minute intervals, and just make sure things are getting stirred up and lots of contact with the water, and yeah, just help out the enzymes any way that we can. Alright, we reached our target. We're about 75 or 65 degrees Celsius, which is right where I wanted it. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up and refill the HLT for get that water up to temperature for recirculation. Alright, so we've got a really good circulation going on here. For the HLT, it's a pretty simple operation. Comes out of the bottom of the kettle to the bottom of the pump, goes up to the recirculation hose, which is positioned here at an angle, so it's always sort of creating circular movement, so there's movement around the element down there. And then when we get to hook up the hoses for the mash, it'll come out of here through this pump and then in through the coil and back up into the mash tun. So let's go ahead and get that set up now. Alright, so there we go. Got the hoses all hooked up. So coming out of the bottom of the mash tun, in through the pump. Pump goes here into the bottom of the coil, goes all the way up through, out the top, out here, and then back into the top of the mash. So acting as an HLT, the heat exchange as it traverses through the coil will bring it up to the desired temperature for the mash, and then make sure that the mash tun stays at that temperature for the duration of the mash. Okay, so we're up to temperature, and now I've got the mash recirculating through the coil, coming back up into the return. You can see here, coming out of the return, and then pumping wort over here, and creating a circular motion over the grain bed. So I'll continue to do this till the end of the mash. See, it's a little bit cloudy, but we'll come back and we'll see how it clears up. Alright, so here we are a little bit later, a few minutes later. Got a nice clear wort going on there. Hanging a couple inches over the grain bed. Yeah, almost time to start filling up the boil kettle, start sparging. Okay, so I switched the cabling around a little bit in order to start filling up the boil kettle. So now you can see I'm coming out of the HLT through the pump, and then now pushing the wort that's in the coil up on top of the mash tun, top of the mash on the grains, and then that's basically how I'm sparging. Fly sparging, basically a continuous sparge on top of there, and it's coming out through the pump and now going up into the boil kettle. And you can see that's very clear looking wort, looking really good. So go ahead and spend the next 45 minutes to an hour filling this up, and yeah, we'll get the boil going. Just another glimpse of it as it's filling up. It's that Maris Otter gold right there. Beautiful. Nice color. Alright, so the filling continues. I've got some questions in the past as to why I actually use this hose in order to fill up the boil kettle. I think the question is basically, why don't I just go through the pump directly into one of the valves, whether it's the output port or the whirlpool port? And the answer is pretty simple, really. Two reasons. One is so that I can actually monitor the flow and the flow rate, so I can actually see it and get it to something I'm comfortable with, something I know that takes like 45 minutes to an hour to fill this kettle. But also another reason is so that I can periodically take samples of the beer coming out of the mash tun and make sure it doesn't fall beneath the 1.008 threshold of gravity to avoid any grain husk tannins. So yeah, that's basically just those two reasons, so I can monitor it and take readings. Alright, so we've collected 13.7 gallons of wort. You can see my 15-gallon kettle's getting pretty close to the top, but yeah, ready to rock and roll. Got the element on. We're about 75 degrees and cranking up. So yeah, about another 15 minutes to the hot break. Alright, so there we go. Nice rolling boil after hot break. Also cleaning out the mash tun. That's always a chore. But yeah, 85 minutes. It's going to be a 90-minute boil. We got about 30 seconds before the 85-minute mark. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop in 30 grams of Centennial. So this whole brew is Centennial and Maris Otter. So yeah, let's go ahead. It's about that time. It's about 30 grams of Centennial. Just dump that in. Nice. Got a bit of a reaction. Stir that in. Alright, there we go. Got that under control. 13.5 gallons of boiling goodness right there. Yes, sir. Alright, let's finish cleaning out that mash tun. Okay, so we're just at the 70-minute mark. Time for the next hop addition. 20 minutes left in the boil, and it comes another 2 ounces or 56 grams of Centennial. Nice little reaction. In a few minutes we'll go ahead and add in a Wurflock tablet and yeast nutrient. Alright, 15 minutes left in the boil. Here goes the Wurflock tablet. Nice little reaction. 2 teaspoons of yeast nutrient. Alright, 10 minutes left in the boil. Comes another ounce. Alright, 5-minute mark. Time for another ounce, 28 grams of Centennial. Okay, now it's 90 minutes. Time for the last hop addition. 2 ounces, or 56 grams of Centennial. Now let's get this burner turned off. Since that was a flame out addition. Flames off. Then you just go ahead and set up the tubing for the whirlpool. We'll be all set. Alright, so here we go. Got it set up for the whirlpool. Basically going to come out of the bottom of the kettle into the bottom of the pump and back up into the whirlpool port. We'll go ahead and let this whirlpool for about 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm not going to hook it up to the counterflow chiller just yet. Right, I want to maximize the efficiency of the whirlpool, and to do that, just go straight into the pump, right into the whirlpool, and then you can see I've got really good movement going in there. No air bubbles. It's just a nice whirlpool going. And we'll let this go for, like I said, about another 25-30 minutes. Alright, we'll see you when we're filling up the fermenter. Alright, so you can see we're emptying out now. Down to about 6 gallons here. Just about finished filling up the first of the fermenters. Yeah, nice little jimmy rig. I broke the handle on the screen. So yeah, using some vice grips in place. So yeah, first one's filled up, 19 liters. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. There. I'll get the other one set up. Alright, there we go, filling up quite nicely. First one's right there. This one had a little bit of a spillage there on the floor, hooking up the cables. But yeah, let's take a look at this. So, coming out of the bottom of the kettle, through the pump, from the pump to the top of the counterflow chiller, out of the counterflow chiller now, straight up into the fermentation bucket. Here we go, getting down to the end. You see the whirlpool, everything was sort of right in the middle. It's all spreading out now as it's getting sucked out. Yep. We're getting there. Just going to continue on here. So for aerating the wort, I've got these pure oxygen tanks that I use. It's got an adapter on there. It connects to the gauges for a CO2 tank. And just got the CO2 line going off there. And I see I've got that hooked up here on one end of a keg out tube. And I'm just using that. And on the very end of it, I've got another split of the gas line that's connecting both the aeration stone to the keg line. So I'll use that, I'll stick it in here, turn the air on, and just aerate the wort. Okay, so you can see I've got the aeration stone going there. I've got the gas turned on, and I'll just stir this around a bit in the wort and just provide more oxygen. That's all. I'll do this for about a minute in each one and get them fully aerated and ready for fermentation. Alright, so here I've got a 2-liter starter that's been going for about 24 hours. A little magnet here on the side holding the stir bar. I'll go ahead and get this ready to go. Take the stir bar out. Now I'm going to put a liter in each one of the fermentation vessels. So instead of just pouring randomly and trying to guess exactly a liter, I've got just a cup here. It's got some liter marks on it so I can see exactly when I reach the 2-liter mark. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a good whirl, swirl it all up, get all the yeasties in suspension, and I'll pour in a liter into the cup here and hope for the best. Alright, there's 1 liter. Looks like I still got quite a few yeasties here. I'll just pop it in. There we go. Have a good life. I'll do the same over here. Just post it in on the yeasties. Pour them all in. There. Brings us up to 21 liters. This one over here is at 20 liters. That's good. And here we go, next day activity. This is the next morning. Currently 7 o'clock. Good crownsing on both of those. Both of the Otter Centennial SMaSH. Over here we've got the Arrogant Bastard Ale clone going along really nicely. So that's it, guys. I know this has been an extremely long one. I really thank you for sticking out and staying around if you saw the whole thing. Appreciate it. Yeah. Upcoming brews, not much. It's going to be a slow weekend this weekend, and then but next weekend we're getting a visit from Technician's Brewery, and we're just going to see how it goes. We're going to brew something. I don't know what it is yet. I know I want to do that hot cinnamon pale ale, and I would love to do an imperial stout, you know, something like that, a Russian imperial stout or something. But we'll figure it out. Everything's here, got all the grains, got all the hops I need, just to do it. So that's it, guys. I hope you're having a hell of a week and have a better weekend. Cheers.